Sports Bros World Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. We are going live for the first time. If you want to check out our previous podcast, go to sportsbrosworld.com/podcity and you'll find everything there. My name is Timbo Slice. I am here with Sage. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. Can't complain. We're trying to figure out this live feed thing. We'll get it down for you guys.
Third time is a charm. Thanks if you're actually watching the first two experiments. It's been a little fun. But anyways, to get some housekeeping out of the way, follow us on Twitter at Sports Bros World. Go to Facebook and like us, facebook.com/Sports Bros World. You've already found our YouTube channel. Congratulations. And then just go to sportsbrosworld.com after we're done. Check out our blog, Sage 7 video blog, and of course, everything else we have to offer at our website. So, take you through the show real quick. We'll go through some MLB injuries. Sage will take over the news and notes. Then we'll get to MLB spring training notes and then some draft strategies that we missed last week. And then, if we have time, we'll get to the NBA top 5 for next season. And then we'll get you out of here. So, we'll try to keep it under 45 minutes. One of us has to go to work, so we'll definitely keep it under 45 minutes. First up, we'll go through the injuries real quick. Marcus Stroman has torn his ACL. He's done for the year. Big sleeper for a lot of people, especially myself and Sage. So looking elsewhere for your number one spark. Cliff Lee has a tendon tear in his elbow. He's already contemplating retirement. Hopefully he won't need surgery for his sake, but either way, I'm crossing him off my draft board. Sage, you cross him off your draft board as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's too iffy.
Okay. Yoenis Cespedes left the game yesterday with quad tightness. Here we go again. It's Yoenis Cespedes, and his running muscles are, for whatever reason, not able to run a lot. Last year it was the hamstring. The year before that, hamstring and quad. Ever since he joined the league in 2012, he's been kind of a day-to-day player. Very talented when he's in the lineup. He's shown that 5-tool player can get you all 5 categories, but that's just something you have to deal with. It's every single day you're checking the lineup. So,
Yeah.
last one, Miguel Cabrera. He is still on track for opening day, but as has been tweeted out over the last couple days, not a sure thing yet. So keep your eye on that. Uh, from an advice standpoint, I'm not adjusting him in my draft rankings because at worst case scenario, is the season on the DL. So, um, but he should not miss very long. So, Sage, you still with us, buddy? Sage. Oh, this could be an issue.
Okay, you still there?
Yeah, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
What happened that time?
Same thing. I'm not sure what's going on with the
That's crazy.
video, but it keeps sticking, so.
That's nuts. All right. Well, it's your turn, so why don't you take over the news and notes there, Chief?
Well, the biggest news in the next few days is the NCAA tournament. Selection Sunday is coming up. Conference tournaments going on. Normal March Madness. So expect upsets, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun. We'll talk about it more next week once we're actually in the NCAA tournament. Besides that, the biggest notes is NFL is having the craziest offseason in the history of the NFL, pretty much. I will run real quick through some guys, and then we can talk it over after that. So I'm just going to list the guy and their new team. Dominican Sue, Miami. Revis went to the Jets. Maxwell to Philly. Macklin to the Chiefs. Julius Thomas to Jacksonville. Murray to Philly. Torrey Smith to San Francisco. Camardi to the Jets. We got Andre Johnson to Indy. We got Browner to New Orleans. Royal to Chicago. Cameron to Miami. Vereen to the Giants. Owen Daniels to Denver. Gore to Indy. Trayvon House to Jacksonville. Matthews to Philly. Hoyer to Houston. roll to Chicago, and then we had the big trades, Bradford for Folds with some picks, um, a center no one knew about for Jimmy Graham and some picks, and Nada to Detroit for some picks. So what do you think on all that?
Name a center you do know about.
Well, that's very true. Unless it's your team, you don't know who the center is typically.
Well, obviously, you see behind me the banner there. Lot shaking up in cheesesteak land. Wasn't 100% on board with the McCoy trade, but I was willing to justify it as I think I did in the podcast last week.
Yes.
Um, and then the Foles trade happened, and I was ready to murder people and jump off ship and find a new team. And then they signed Murray, and now I'm just confused. I don't know what the hell's going on up there.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to do with thinking Murray's better than McCoy. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
The money was close enough to where it just didn't make sense, and especially when they brought on roughly $12 million extra dollars of quarterback salary. So I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand how people can possibly, at this stage of their careers, value Sam Bradford as that much better than Nick Foles, if better at all. So
yeah.
I won't go on too much of a rant on Philly, so that's about all I got on that. The other big ones, the Chiefs got their deep threat wide receiver. Now they only need a deep threat quarterback, and they'll be pretty good shape. I like Sue to the Lions. I thought that was pretty solid.
Or you mean to the Dolphins?
To the Dolphins. Someone's got to try and compete with New England, so why not?
Yeah.
I like it. That's about all I got for thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
man.
I really kind of sneaky here. Jacksonville has stowed away some pretty decent talent. Devon House improves their secondary, which is already pretty good. They got some O-line help. They got Julius Thomas. I think they're, an up-and-coming team if they can keep it together. And, the big moves were, I guess, semi-expected. The trades were definitely not. I don't understand Philadelphia either. The whole Bradford thing, and then the signing two running backs, the top two running backs in free agency, I think. But what is that about? How are
another one?
Yeah, I think they're going to use somebody for trade bait, and I don't think it's going to be Darren Sproles. So I don't know. I don't know why you would sign someone to then trade them. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, the Chip Kelly presser, I don't know if you watched it or saw it. It was pretty ridiculous.
I saw parts of it.
Basically, he said, "Oh yeah, we play this year to year, so we might have a new team every year." But then 2 days later, he signs DeMarco Murray to a 5-year deal.
Wow.
This Chip Kelly guy, he's a shady character.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out. I just, for their style of offense, the Oregon Duck style that he brought to the Eagles, I really don't understand why you would go after two kind of pounded home backs that tend to fumble and tend to get hurt. Why wouldn't you just, I don't know. You could get a freight train type back that, stays pretty steady, but for a lot cheaper too. So I don't know. I don't really understand the whole and the Bradford for Foles thing. If you were comparing them straight out of college, there's no doubt everyone would pick Bradford. But it's not out of college. It's out of a few years in the NFL, and those few years, Bradford's played like 10 snaps, and Foles has led a team to the playoffs. So it's I don't understand it, but apparently Chip Kelly does, at least in his head. So we'll see where that goes.
For his sake, I hope that plan starts coming together pretty quick, or those guys might burn the town to the ground up there in Philly. Looks like Sage left us again. Okay. I guess we'll go back to March Madness for a second. I like Duke to make a run, and really the only team that can beat Kentucky. Kentucky's going to win it all, though, so not much surprise there. Always fun to see who the number one seeds are, and where everybody goes. The big talk in my part of the country, or my state, anyways, is Kansas. Always a perennial power. Always goes to the closest regional. If they don't beat Baylor today, who knows if that's a lock. And then Wichita State has been a perennial power the last 4 or 5 years, anyways. And they're looking like they're going to get shipped way across the country, either east or west. So it's going to be interesting to see that. I'll keep it going here, waiting for Sage to join us back. Spring training, some things catching my eye. Alex Rios homered in 3 of his first 4 games, homering for the entire second half last year. So that's definitely caught my eye. He hasn't moved up my rankings yet, but it's nice to see that the power's at least still there. So, Sage, we're talking about spring training surprises. The only one I got through so far was Alex Rios. I got a couple more, though. Then we'll kick it over to you, okay?
Cool.
Henderson Alvarez looks like he might be poised to take the number 1 spot in the Marlins rotation, which is kind of a surprise to me. He's already got a no-hitter under his belt. He had a very good year last year, but I was thinking they brought in Latos for that role, but Henderson Alvarez might snatch it. And then Jared Cozart is the other one, rotation mate with Henderson Alvarez in Miami. They are saying he has top of the rotation stuff and looks excellent in the spring. So might have to add. I already added Henderson Alvarez to the rankings. Might have to add Jared Cozart. Sage?
Yeah, definitely. I like.
Man, sorry, man, your picture disappeared, so I was just checking if you're still there. But yeah, go ahead. Anything catch your eye in spring training?
The biggest thing for me was JD Martinez has kind of came into his own. He's so far, I'd say, one of the bigger surprises. And besides that, our good old boy Alex Rodriguez. He has played pretty well, and I don't think the Yankees can keep ignoring him, per se, so eventually they're going to have to play him. What are your thoughts on good old A-Rod?
Oh, I saw him. I went to bed last night and I couldn't sleep, so I was like, you know what? I missed this whole Will Ferrell day because I was at work. So I flipped on the MLB Network on TV, and I just I just saw A-Rod sitting there talking to Joe Girardi, flipping sunflower seeds in his mouth, and I would love to hear that conversation. I would love to hear any conversation right now that A-Rod is having.
That's a very good point.
I'm completely enthralled in this thing. I love it. I just want to see everything that he does because it's such a disaster of a situation. It's got to be the most awkward thing that has possibly ever happened on a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable, but yet if they keep rolling him out there and he keeps hitting, well, they got to play him. They got to. And, they'd be stupid not to. And as a Red Sox fan, I find this whole uncomfortable thing just absolutely hysterical. It is it is like watching reality TV form in a baseball game, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Alex Rodriguez and Joe Girardi talking and then Kim Kardashian walks down the bench, It is just so much like forced weird drama that it's hilarious to me.
I'm waiting for Kanye to walk up and just smack A-Rod.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just think that it's a possibility. It could happen.
I think Kanye could walk out when Chase Headley's up at bat and be like, A-Rod he deserves this at bat. Interrupt the whole show. So.
Right. It's great. I can't wait to see how this plays out. New York has done it again. They've stolen the spotlight, and they have a crappy team.
For no
So,
reason, they've stolen the spotlight. That's the great thing. Oh man, that's
hey man,
hilarious.
I'm glad you brought that up. I love it. Yeah, I was laying in bed last night. I'm watching. I'm just like, oh, I wonder what they're talking about. God, that looks so interesting. Oh man, freaking New York.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, but back to a real guy that has caught my eye. JD Martinez has played kind of out of his mind a little bit in the spring, and I know he's getting nothing but fastballs right now. That guy's hitting really solid. I like his production, and I think he's obviously already earned a spot for the most part on the team. So um, where are they going to put him in the lineup? All that good stuff. I think he's somewhat of a sleeper, and a lot of guys don't know about him. Hopefully, he stays quiet enough for you to use him as a sleeper in this year's draft. But if not, I mean, he's already have a pretty explosive spring. And one of my sleepers, I did. I'm about to post a video, my Sage of 7 of overall sleepers for this year, and had to take Stroman off the list with the ACL, but one of them that I really like, and is a Red Sox, so you call me a homer, whatever, had 3 hits yesterday, and Mookie Betts seems to be just in full stride. I mean, and he not only has by default already won the center field position, but it looks like he's going to win the leadoff position too. So
I like it.
Yeah, he's very solid. I hope they don't end up trading him for a bag of beans, so we'll see how that all pans out. But that's kind of all the talk I have for what's caught my eye so far.
All right. Anything that has shifted the fantasy scope for any players for you?
Not really. We haven't had, we talked about the injuries, and the only one really that may shake me a little bit. Cliff Lee's off my board, obviously, but Cespedes, if it continues for the next couple weeks, him in and out of the lineup, he's probably going to move down my outfield rankings, just because it's becoming more and more of a risk.
Well, that's actually going to continue for the next 6.5 months, buddy. So
yeah, well, very true.
I want you to be prepared for that. I don't want you to draft him too early, thinking you're going to get 158 games out of Yoenis Cespedes.
No, I would say he's going to top out in the 120s. He's always got a nagging injury.
That's lower than my number even.
Yeah, being a Red Sox fan, that's like we talked before. I wasn't too upset when they traded him because I really thought that was a big issue and it was an upcoming issue. So we'll see what happens. But if it's more nagging here in the spring, he's definitely going to move down my board.
All right, I have Chris Bryant has shifted the fantasy scope for me. He's got 12 plate appearances. 4 for 10 with a couple of walks, a couple of homers, a couple of long homers. Really, the entire Cubs offense, these young guys are showing up, and again, it's against potentially minor league pitchers trying to spot their fastball, but it's still impressive. The power's there. 48 home runs last year. If you're not moving them up your board, for anyone listening, if you're not moving them up your board, there's something wrong with you. I just don't think the Cubs are going to be able to send him down to AAA to start the season. I don't think they can really, if they really think that this is the year they start competing, I just don't see how they can do it. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the whole Cubs offense seems to be clicking. The young guys are just looking spectacular. Baez, Solar added to that list there, and then on top of it, now they got more quality pitching. And in the middle of that lineup is a guy I love, Rizzo, who is going to have a lot more RBI opportunities. So, yeah, I agree. I think Chris Bryant, it depends on where they put him, but I think at worst he's going to be a backup infielder to start the season. I don't see them sending him to AAA. There's too much. Uh, what can I say? Fan appeal to having Bryant in the lineup opening day, and the Cubbies fans are at this point kind of just numb to the fact that World Series is never happening, blah blah blah. But then they get hope, and then they get crazy. So Chris Bryant will be in the lineup. So
You gotta think so. I mean, it'd be one thing if he threw up a stinker in spring and hit like 158 and no home runs and struck out 37 times in
yeah,
60 some at bats, but he's not. He's not doing that. He's legit. He's the real deal, at least in my opinion. So
yeah, definitely.
he might even move up my third base draft board here in the next few days before the big 6704 draft, which is coming up in, about a week and 2 days next Sunday.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. That's a tough league, and a lot of guys, including us too, know a lot about baseball. So it's a fun league.
Yeah, speaking of your boy Rizzo, he's moving up my board. I think I
Yeah,
got it narrowed down to him or one other guy at 7. So
yeah. I don't know if I'd take him at 7 necessarily, but I understand. In our league, we have defensive stats, so that's
the keepers and
yeah, keepers. It's one thing with defensive stats. Your first baseman and catchers definitely move up a little bit more because of their 1,400 putouts for the year. So
yeah. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit here. Go to draft strategies that we missed last week. We got a little carried away on some things last week, so we didn't have time to get to everything. The first thing that we missed is when to grab your first pitcher, be it reliever or starter. Sage, what's your strategy going into a standard 5x5 draft with no keepers or anything? When are you looking at taking your first pitcher? Let's say you miss the Kershaw and Felix.
yeah, and that's what I was about to mention. Is other than Kershaw and King Felix, I would probably be looking in the third, fourth, maybe even fifth round, depending upon where pitchers are starting to be taken. I'll tell you this: if I'm no matter where I'm at in the draft, if Kershaw and Felix are gone, I'm not going to be the first guy to take a pitcher after that. I won't be that guy. I'll wait to see, and then not really react in a panic mode because I think there's a lot of pitchers from 3 to 20 that are solid aces on their team. So I'm not going to panic, and I'm not going to take anybody stupid. But yeah, I'm probably going to wait for the Klubers of the world to fall down a little bit, and yeah, if I miss out on the big two, I'm probably waiting. I would say most likely third or fourth in a standard 12-man, 10-man. It kind of varies a little there, but
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't want to start that run, but if I'm sitting at the end of the third round and the run hasn't started yet, I may have to start it. At least in the beginning of the fourth. But more than likely, I think that run's going to start early to mid third. So if you're at the back end of the draft, you're probably going to take a pitcher in the third or fourth round. If you're in the front half of the draft, I think that's when the run should probably start. But again, I don't want to be the one to start it.
yeah.
And with there being, like you said, 15 legitimate aces, 13 after the big two, I think you can wait till the end of the fourth and be just fine.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't like to start runs, period. But if you're gonna be a part of a run, you got to remember, and it varies with everybody's ranking. Compare ours to whoever, and you'll see after Felix, after Kershaw, from 3 to 15, clear up to 20, there is varying opinion. Where do you put Adam Wainwright, for example? Cueto, for example. Strasburg. Sonny Gray. Yeah, these are guys that are solid aces that all could potentially give you 200 innings, all could potentially win 18 to 20 games, if they have just an all-star year. And so don't be the guy that selects and starts that run. That run's going to last a few rounds most likely.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
keep that in
absolutely.
mind. And as far as relief pitchers, this obviously varies with the stats in your league. In a 5x5, I'm waiting. And again, I'm not going to start the run again, so I'm probably waiting till the first few are picked and make a smart move. And then after that, probably wait a few more rounds and go for my second reliever. I like to throw a sparp in, so I try to get two solid relievers, real closers, and then throw a sparp in there, and then maybe get a few backups if I need to. But
Well, see, I think reliever it's at least more interesting than it has been in previous years because before, like the last probably 2 years, it was Kimbrel and then it was the rest of the field. Then you
yeah,
had, 2 years ago, you had Aroldis Chapman at the top of the field after Kimbrel, but it was still several
yeah,
rounds later. Whereas this year, I think you have Holland, Chapman, and Kimbrel all right around the same. So
absolutely, yeah,
since Kimbrel typically went in the fifth or sixth round in a regular draft, it'll be interesting to see how many relievers or closers get taken before that ninth, 10th round when the run actually usually starts. So
yeah, and don't be stupid about closers. I mean, there's, like you said, it's a little closer at the top, and then there's a mid tier that is varies just like it does with the starters, and that may last, with relievers, hell, that could last 5 rounds, So if you don't need it right away, don't do it, and be smart about it.
yeah, I always like to go with a theory. I like to see how my draft is going. If I'm getting the exact guys that I want and my draft is going really well, then yeah, I will splurge on one of the top closers, absolutely. But if
Yeah,
not, if it's not going the way I want it to, and I feel like I'm not filling positions as fast as I need to with quality players, then I'll probably wait on reliever and snag two or three good ones
yeah.
in the middle of the draft. So just kind of depends on how you think your draft is going. If it's going really well and you feel like you can splurge on a elite closer, then by all means do it. It's typically going to work out for you. So,
Yeah,
um,
definitely. You just want to get the saves. Remember that. In 5x5, you want to get the saves. So who's going to give you that most chance to do that? If you include WHIP and ERA, you need to get a lot more in depth in your draft and be smart about it.
yeah. All right, so we're going to switch gears again. Not really any good at switching gears here, anyways. So we're horrible at segues, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, from fantasy draft to fantasy draft.
Yes, from fantasy draft strategy to fantasy draft strategy.
Yeah, there's a segue for you.
Speaking of segues, I was in DC a couple of years ago, and I was running around the Monument Park or the Monu hallway, whatever they call it, where all the presidential monuments are at. And there was a Segway tour. I took some pictures. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I would never do it, but it was
I
a
was
cool
gonna
sight
say I
to
gotta
see.
see a picture of you on a Segway, but
No, yeah, yeah, that probably will never exist. So don't hold your breath. But I thought it was cool to see that they were doing that because they had a front guy and then a back guy as the two tour guides. The back guy, you could tell he's been doing it for like 10 years because he was sitting on his Segway and holding his hand up and running his motor or whatever and just
wow.
bored off of his a-hole and yeah. So, anyways, we're segueing into the note I have here is a couple different strategies when you game plan for your draft. Um, Sage, I'll just ask you the question. When you get ready for your draft, are you thinking best available no matter what in the first couple rounds, or do you know where, if you know where you're drafting, do you know exactly what you want in the first round and you're going to build around that?
I go for exactly what I want. It depends on where you fall. You know, for instance, in our league, I'm at the back of the draft, league champion, hashtag. Um,
Pound sign.
so, yeah. So, anyway, if you're in the back of the draft, obviously you're getting back to back picks or you're getting close to back to back picks, you know. So, in that case, I kind of mix it up. I go for best available / what I want, you know, and if I get them back to back, that's beautiful. You know, if you finish second or whatever, and you got 2 picks in between you, you can still do that, but it is a little bit up to, you know, the other guy. So I try to go for best available with 1 pick, and then on the flip side, I go with what I want to build around. Now, in
So you
saying
have a guy
that,
targeted. You have a guy targeted right now that you want, and
yes,
then if he's there, you're going to snag him, and then you're going to take the other best available player.
exactly.
And okay,
Best
all right.
available, not at the same position as my target, put it that way. So I kind of eliminate that position with, you know, my target. In saying that, you know, if you're in the middle of the draft, you know, 5, 6, 7, I think you got to go best available. It's stupid not to, especially if someone in front of you doesn't go best available, and you know, Paul Goldschmidt slips down the board. How are you not taking him at, like, you know, 7, for instance? How could you not, you know? And
Right.
it obviously depends on your league statistics and stuff, but if you're in a 5x5, you can almost go to anybody's blog, hashtag us, and look at their look at their board, and you can go straight down it. That's what you should pick in a 5x5. But if your, you know, statistics vary, you gotta obviously equate for that, and, you know, like defensive stats, like if even if it's just a one little added stat and you're in a 5x6 or 6x6, that one stat's there for a reason, and everyone knows about it. You should be a part of that. So pick accordingly. So
You should be a part of it.
yeah, yeah,
Good call. I'm taking best available no matter what. I've done the whole, oh man, if I can get this guy, that kind of sets me up to go this way in the next round and so forth. And that's, you know, you can do that or you can try to do that, but the thing that I run into, and I'll use Robinson Cano as an example. Let's say you're Robinson Cano, anywhere you look in a top 250, top 300 draft board, he's going to be in the top 15 somewhere.
yeah,
More than likely, he's going to be at the back end of that top 15, though, in the 10 to
yeah,
15 range, because quite simply, he doesn't have the power he used to. He's in a bigger field. Um, he's going to do everything else for you. He's never really stole any bases, so you're looking at high average, probably scoring a lot of runs, probably driving in a lot of runs, and probably in the 15 homer range. And at second base, that's a hell of a thing to have there. I mean, that's great.
yeah,
But if you're drafting him earlier than that as a strategy to fill that spot so you don't have to worry about it, you're going to be pretty mad in the 5th, 6th round when there's the Jason Kipnises and the D. Gordons are just still sitting there.
yeah,
And you could have gotten, you know, like a Carlos Gomez or a Jose Batista or even a Felix Hernandez in the first round instead of filling that you were scared to wait on second base because you just wanted to forget about it role. So, so I think you can get into trouble if you have a set plan going in. And the other big factor is, of course, you never know how your draft's going to go. We sit here, we try to predict our draft every single year, and every single year in the first 5 picks, you're like, what the heck is
yeah,
that guy thinking? You know what I mean? So, thanks for the free pick, and then your free pick gets hurt and misses the
yeah.
season. So it all works out, but I'm gonna protect myself, and I'm taking the absolute best available the first 2 rounds, and I'm just gonna build my team around that. So that's the way.
Okay. Well, my question to you there, and you alluded to it earlier, is if you're taking your best available in our draft, you're the seventh pick. You're
Right.
saying that Rizzo is the seventh best player available in all of fantasy baseball.
I currently have him at 10 on my top 250. So if you factor in
But
that,
we have keepers,
if you
so
factor in a couple keepers, he's 7, 8, 9. So yeah, right there.
yeah, I was just curious. But yeah, and I'm high on Rizzo too, so I
It,
understand
it's
that. But
it's right there between Rizzo and Carlos Gomez. Those are the two guys. Because I've thought about it a lot, taking Cano at 7. And I'm like, man, I could do that, and I'm keeping D Gordon, so it would kind of handcuff the league a little bit. But at the same time, I could get a lot better bat there, a lot better bat.
that's
So
true, and
that's my strategy.
I think, and you kind of bring up a good point there. When it comes to draft strategy, you look at a guy like Rizzo, who is a power bat that's going to drive in a lot of runs, high average. If you have defensive stats, he's going to play every day at first base, most likely. Versus a guy like Carlos Gomez, who is essentially a five-tool player, and kind of the same discussion we had last week, Cabrera versus Trout, but further down the draft. How do you? I guess my question is, how do you compare a power bat everyday first baseman versus a five-tool all-star outfielder? Which way are you going?
Well,
It depends on the guys, obviously, but
right. But I think you're right there. I think the Gomez and Rizzo, I think that's right there is kind of the poor man's Trout versus Miggy.
yeah,
So what I'm looking at is, and everybody forgets that you have to fill stats. You don't have to fill your roster with all stars. You need the most possible stats.
yeah,
So it just depends. If I take Carlos Gomez, I know that as the draft goes on, I need a little less speed and a little more power. If I take Anthony Rizzo, I know that as the draft goes on, I'm going to need some speed somewhere because Anthony Rizzo might steal a base.
yeah.
So I'm gonna need some speed further down the draft, but I think speed is going to be a little easier to come by. So I guess in a vacuum, if I had to pick between the two, probably take an Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, and okay, my other thing for you, last little question, we can move on, is you got the seven pick there, so looking at someone like Encarnacion as compared to Rizzo, what are your thoughts?
Taking Rizzo. I like the youth.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the youth a little better. I like
And
that he's a
I'll
left-handed bat a little better.
not
So
to interrupt here, but I'll throw in another name that's another first baseman, Freddie Freeman.
man, the lineup that they have surrounded Freddie Freeman with is just disgusting. So
Yeah, well, that's a
I'm
good point too.
I'm I'm gonna try and stay away from Freddie Freeman. I love Freddie Freeman. I mean, he's been my boy for since the get-go. Well, you drafted him in 2012 as Mr.
Yeah,
Irrelevant, and
and then I
then
dumped him.
traded to me, and he was on my roster the next 2 years thanks to
Yeah,
the keeper rule. So,
yeah,
so
wonderful.
I love Freddie Freeman, but I, he's moved down my board for me personally far enough to where I'm hoping that when I'm thinking about taking another first baseman, he's already off the board. So
Well, he's not
that's
going
where
to
I'm
be
at
off the
there.
board at seven. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I hope not. Or actually, I hope he is. So,
Well, it'll be
so
interesting.
all right.
Yeah,
So
I
what about
mean,
you? What about you between Gomez and Rizzo?
I don't know. I kind of agree with you there. Um, but man, it is really tough, for me to look at a guy that gives you five stat categories consistently and at a high rate, and say that, hey, this guy that gives you four, I'm going to draft before him. The only reason I would probably go with a Rizzo or a Encarnacion or Freeman a slugger first baseman over an outfielder like that that's pretty comparable is the fact the outfield's stacked. And you can find 40 outfielders that are legitimately going to put some stats together for you. But, most of them aren't the Carlos Gomez's of the world. So,
Right.
I don't know. It's tough, but I would probably end up with the first baseman too. Your discussion with the Robinson Cano, man, that would be even tougher for me, I think, because I look at Robinson Cano as, in my opinion, far and away still the best second baseman. I do think Altuve's coming up, and next year he may be in that discussion for who's the best, but a guy that you can plug in that is going to give you the same stats as a Rizzo, for example, the same four stats.
Not even close.
Yeah, but it's the
Rizzo's
same.
going to out-homer him by 20.
I understand that, but it's the same four stats. He's not going to give you any steals. Robinson Cano is probably going to hit for a higher average. He's in a lineup that is just as good, I think, as the Cubs, if not better.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that, man, that position is so hard to fill. It really is. It's hard to fill that position with a just really solid guy that you can plug in there every week, I'm kind of high on Cano because I drafted him last year at 7, the same pick you're at, in the same league, and I didn't bench him for 1 week. And I walked away with a trophy. That's all I gotta say.
God. All because of Robinson Cano's 10 home runs, too.
Hey, you know what, though? You know what? I never had to worry about second base, so that's a big benefit. Plus, you're keeping Abreu. You're drafting a first baseman after you're keeping Abreu. I mean,
Why
come
not?
on. I don't know. Stockpile of. I got 20 first basemen. What are you gonna give me?
we got an infielder spot.
That's true. I know. I'm just saying. It's I didn't expect you to.
It's either that or an outfielder. And how many outfielders do I need? I had 5 last year, and that didn't do any good. So, I said, like we said last week, at one point I had 3 undrafted outfielders in my starting lineup. And I kept Trout last year, by the way. Yeah. I traded Trout, and after I did that, I had Dickerson, Blackman, and Brantley, and I did just fine. I made it to the playoffs. I tied in both playoff rounds, so I did pretty good, I think.
And lost the tiebreaker, by the way. Add that in there.
Okay, yeah. I can't wait to kick your ass in this draft coming up.
Yeah, we gotta razz each other.
Yeah. All right. We're starting to run low on time here. We got about 5 minutes left, or less actually. Man, I got to get to work. Let's real quick. Let's go through what we think are the top 5 fantasy draft picks for the 2015-2016 NBA season. Say, do you want to go first? Or you want me to?
I'll go ahead and go. My top 5. I'm going to take Anthony Davis number 1 next year. Number 2, I'm looking at LeBron, still giving you a ton of statistics. Team's going to probably be better. I got Harden, Durant, and Curry rounding out my top 5.
Wow.
And by the way, just to let you know, your boy Westbrook, Mr. Triple-Double this year, is currently number 14 in standard NBA fantasy basketball leagues. So
really?
I'm not going to draft him number 1. I'm not even going to draft him in my top 5.
At leading the league in scoring, 7.1 rebounds a game, 8.3 assists a game, and 2.1 steals a game, he's 14th.
14th.
Scoring.
I just looked up ESPN standard scoring. He was number 14.
Well, he missed 2 weeks. He missed like 10, 12 games early in the year.
And you expect him to not do that next year? I mean, come
Absolutely.
on. No.
Look at this guy over the last 5 years.
And not to mention, one of the best players on the planet is going to be playing beside him next year.
All right, well, calm down, buddy. I'm not taking him first overall. I am actually taking James Harden #1 overall
Well,
next year. Yeah. Um,
lefties got to stick together. I understand.
lefties got to stick together, and beards as well. Why aren't? Yeah, you got Harden at 3, so those beards stick together too. I like Anthony Davis, and I'm sure blocks are probably the premier stat that's hard to come by in the
Oh
NBA
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
talking about fantasies. So I like Davis, so I'm gonna go Davis at #2. And then at 3, I'm taking Steph Curry. He's got similar stats to Westbrook with the 7.8 assists per game. He's only scoring 23.6 a game, but he's got the same number of steals as Westbrook per game. And the big advantage for him is he hits 3.4 3-point field goals per game. So taking him third. Durant, I'm going 4, just because all the points. He'll pick up the slack and the rebounding as well. And then I have James at 5, and Westbrook a very close 6, because James just doesn't put up the fantasy numbers that you would think that you're going to get from him. There's no
Well,
doubt he's one of the top 2 or 3 players in the NBA, but he doesn't put up the stats that you think he should be putting up.
yeah. As he gets older, he's gotten more into the leadership role in real life, and
Right.
his stats have taken a backseat. But I do think I'm still high on Cleveland. I think they're going to put it together. I think they're going to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Well, I do too,
And
but I'm not drafting James second overall next year.
well, and here's my thing. I think Love's going to resign. I think the team's going to get even better, and I just think LeBron is going to come into his own. He's the modern day Magic Johnson. I mean, he's going to fill every stat. I like that, and he's very rarely hurt. So
Where's he at in your current rankings there, big guy?
as far as
You said
the
Westbrook was 14. Where's James at?
oh, let me bring it up real quick. I didn't have it up. Catching me off guard
You
here.
just wanted to dog me. That's all you wanted to do with that little note there. All right, that's
Yes, I
cool.
wrote it down.
Or write this down. Leading the league in points. He's going to win a scoring title while his boy KD's out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, he can win all the scoring titles he wants, but he's not going to win a championship
He's
because
got
his
it by
team
like
keeps losing.
he's got it over Harden right now by half a point. That's a pretty
He,
big gap this late in the year. I'm just
that's
saying.
he's Kobe Bryant right now. Come on, I don't like
What?
it. I
Who?
wouldn't.
Who's
He's
Kobe Bryant?
Westbrook. He
Oh
he
my
shoots 1,000
God.
times. He scores 30 points a game, but then his team loses by 20. I just I don't know. I don't like it.
Check us out, sportsbrosworld.com. Follow us on Twitter. I'm done with Sage for the day, and I got to get to work. We'll see you next week live on our YouTube channel, roughly the same time, but we'll figure it out.
Peace out, everybody.